I'm Cynthia, the host of the reality series, CPS the Horror Stories. Let's give everybody a quick update as far as who you are, what your story is, and then we can go into the update as far as what's going on now and what happened.
My name is Emily, and we are involved in, or we were involved in a CPS case. The last time we were on here, we were talking about how we were talking about the rights that had been violated and things like that. Well, the judge in our case ruled in the department's favor and terminated our rights. And all the department had was hearsay, and we had a preponderance of evidence, including a video of our daughter alleging sexual assault at the foster home. And we showed that to the court, and that didn't mean anything. Since then, we found an article about a mother named Laura Sanchez, also Laura Villalon, case that this judge is working on. This mother murdered her 2-year-old son. She had a total of 8 children. She lost her rights to the first 5 because of meth. And then she had 3 more children. And she murdered her little 2-year-old son and put him in a dumpster. She first lied and said that she lost him at Cameron Park. And then she took the police to the dumpster that she dumped a child in. And this judge is the same judge who terminated our rights when we proved ourselves innocent of all these cockamamie allegations, and she's allowing a murderer to keep her rights. And the 2 daughters that she was able to keep, one was a brand new baby and had meth in their system. I guess she was pregnant and using. And her other daughter had meth in her system, and the mother had meth in her system. And the judge sealed that case and is allowing the mother to maintain her rights, and she terminated ours. And our attorneys said that our attorneys said that the department cannot and will not meet clear and convincing. And my attorney had mentioned, he spelled everything out to her, how I would do everything that the department had asked me to do, and they kept raising the bar. And so, for example, they'd say, if you leave your husband, we will work on face-to-face visits for you. Well, I was there from April 12th until, I was there for the longest time, and I didn't ever see hide nor hair of my kids. And then when I left my husband and I went to Vegas, then they raised the bar again and said that I needed to get into, I needed to do 30 days no contact with my husband. I satisfied that by 40 days. Then they raised the bar again and said, okay, well, you need to do 30 sessions of individual therapy. Well, because of COVID, it's been really hard to find therapists. And the one that I did have said that the emotional and mental state that I was in because of the case is too severe for me to have online therapy. So I needed to see a therapist in person. So I searched for that. I found one, and, nothing I ever did for those people was good enough. I left an 11-year career. I left my part-time job to go back to Las Vegas. I did everything these people asked of me, and in our trial, we proved the perjury against the CPI. She perjured herself 3 times now, not just the twice that I told you about the last time. Because I remember the last time we were on here, I told you how in the report she said she went to the house and the school. But while she was on the stand on June 11th of last year, she said the only place she went was the school. And then she testified that was her report, and that was her under oath statement on June 11th. And then on July 15th, she said, I went to the school, and then I went to the house, and then I went to the school. And we were like, and she was asked, was there a fence? And she said no. And we submitted, whatever you call it, pictures of our house that has a fence. And that's just showing, that was just proof that she was perjuring herself, And
Didn't even remember that we had dogs at the time.
Yeah, we even submitted pictures of our dogs, And back to the Laura Sanchez case, it shows a great deal of incompetence on the judge's part. And it makes me believe that her opinion is criminals and murderers are fit parents, but parents who are genuinely innocent and can not only prove it, but have tried to prove it, are not fit parents.
Yeah.
Tell me again what city and state you guys, the court thing is happening.
Go ahead, babe. I'm sorry. What'd
No
you
problem.
say?
It's Waco, Texas.
McLennan County, to be exact.
I've had so many stories from Texas.
Oh, Texas, the CPS out here, they're one of the highest paid DFPS organizations. They make over $2 billion a year.
And I even looked up the statistics for our county, and there are total 27 counties in our district, and McLennan County makes up for 1/8 of the removals in just our district alone.
How long ago was that mom who killed her son?
Oh, it happened in April of this year, while our case was almost 1 year old.
I just had a parent who I've done video, interviews with. I'm not sure if you've watched Brad. He's in Tarrant County. Is that
Tarrant County.
And he told me Saturday that a mom slit her daughter's, I think it was her daughter's throat.
What?
Yeah.
And
I don't understand why people hurt children. I don't understand. And parents who would never do horrible things to their children, they get their ass kicked by these predators and these traffickers known as CPS. They get their asses kicked. Parents who are genuinely trying to protect their children from everything. And it's like, if you reach out and you try to protect your children from these heinous people,
God forbid,
you get everything in the book thrown at you. I mean, in the middle of our trial, it took 1 year for my husband to be arrested for injury to a child on the 3rd degree, which here in Texas, from what we've heard, is a probationary offense. It took 1 year. He still has no copy of the warrant. He was not, when he did the first walkthrough, he was not read his Miranda rights. And then the DA here, she didn't like how low his bail was. His bail was only $10,000. So in the middle of our trial, she puts another charge of injury to a child on him and raises his bail to $30,000 without cause.
And on top of that, I don't have a copy of that warrant too.
He doesn't have a copy of anything.
Yeah, I had to listen to my attorney, contact my bondsman, and go down there, just, I guess, on word of mouth to get reprocessed.
And then on top of that, the Waco Tribune put out a false article on my husband. The article that they wrote did not have true and accurate information in it. And so my husband was receiving death threats on Facebook and stuff. Yeah. And I got to say, if you give people death threats when you don't know the whole story, you need to try to do your research, because if you don't know the whole story and you believe this system, you're delusional. That's all I got to say. You can't, I mean, these people, they slaughter families for money. They take children for money. good, honest parents for money. Parents who are genuinely scared for their child because, I'm sorry, but parents who are genuinely scared for their child, and they take them to the doctor multiple times. They try to pin things on the parents like Munchausen's by proxy or something like that.
Yes, that is
Because,
what it is. Somebody diagnosed my mom with that. Do you know what that is?
I kind of do, but I don't 100% know the exact medical term of what it is, but basically every little thing you take your child to the doctor for.
Did you ever see the movie The Sixth Sense?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember when the little girl came into the tent and she was vomiting?
I don't remember that part. It's been years since I've seen the movie.
So that was his first interaction that he started talking. I'm asking Brad to come on so I can ask him questions about that little girl. Anyways, the little girl in the movie asked him to go to her funeral. He went to the funeral. She showed him where this movie was, that she recorded her mom poisoning her. Do you remember that part?
I don't. Like I said, it's been years. The only part I remember really is the end where Bruce Willis finds out he's dead.
So Munchausen's by proxy isn't necessarily that you're taking your kid to the doctors all the time. It's actually where you're creating something wrong with your child, and then
that's right.
You're the hero.
Yeah. That sounds like what my mom did to me as a kid.
That's what. Do you know all of my diagnoses, whatever, however that you say that word, are diagnosed as idiopathic? They don't know why I have them.
That doesn't make. They should know why.
Well, they think it's because my mom did something.
Huh.
And it's not just me who's sick, it's my brother and my dad too.
Is your mom a narcissist?
Yes.
So is mine. My mom plays the victim and, she blames everybody else and doesn't accept any fault for anything she does to anybody. And she will be buddy and so sweet, to other people, but behind closed doors, she is a monster.
Not sure who Teresa Odell is.
That's
my mom-in-law.
She said, "That's your mother."
Yep. Her mom is a major narcissist. It's because of her that even now I can't even make babies. I had a vasectomy because she nagged us for months and got me to the point where I just finally turned around and said, okay, you're saying you're going to pay for it. Let's just get this done to get you off my back.
Yeah, she said, you'd be stupid to have another baby. You can barely afford the ones that you have now. And then she said, when I told her that I wanted,
That's just annoying. Sorry.
No, it's okay. And then when I was not married to my ex-husband yet, I was a month from being married to my ex-husband, I was pregnant and she forced me to get an abortion. She said, when she found out that it was positive that I was pregnant, she said, you're getting an abortion. And I said, well, what if I want to keep the baby? And she said, you don't have any medical insurance. And, she kept berating me in the car ride. I don't remember where we were going. This was years ago, but she berated me in the car ride to the point where I just said, look, I'm getting rid of it. Okay. And she said, don't talk that way. Don't talk about my grandchild like that. And I'm like, make up your damn mind. You either want me to do what you're telling me to do or you don't.
Did you keep it?
Unfortunately, no. And I kick myself all the time, because, you know, there's nothing more painful than doing that, especially because you yourself have lived in fear of your own abuser and your whole life, and you just want the abuse to stop, and you do what they tell you to do, you know. And my mom, she during the hearing, or the trial, I mean, she even perjured herself several times. One of the things that she perjured herself on was, she said my husband didn't have a car when we first started dating, when actually he did have a car. He had a 99 Mustang.
It was a red 99 Mustang.
Yeah, it was a 265 anniversary edition.
You know,
And
the other, sorry,
that's okay.
I want to interrupt you for a minute. The other thing, because I don't want to forget, that makes me so mad, is I watched your hearing on YouTube.
Yeah.
Did you see the part where they got my dad to say what their address was, where my children are and where they are, and then they posted a half-naked picture of my daughter live on YouTube?
No, I got to watch only, because there was more than one, right?
Yeah, there was a total of 3, July 15th and 16th, and then August 3rd.
So I saw the August 3rd one, and what's crazy is I got on late because I was doing interviews, and by the time I got on, it was like halfway through, and when I wanted to go back and watch it, it wouldn't let me.
Well, we found out some crazy things during that trial. We found out that the department asked the police department to do a third forensic interview, and the police department declined doing that third forensic interview. And they also said that they weren't going to prosecute. And then the other thing is, we found out when the kid's counselor got her certifications. She got her IC on August 13th of 2019 and her LSW on July 16th of 2019. She testified that she's still an intern and under supervision, and she started seeing my children either exactly 1 month or less after she got these certifications. And the judge listened to her as if she was an expert witness. And they asked me, so you don't think she's an expert? I said, I know she's not an expert. You know, I mean, how can you call yourself an expert when my kids are quite possibly your first clients? Quite possibly.
There you go.
So, you know, I mean, she quoted the book really good, really well. She quoted the book really well, but there was hardly anything she knew about my kids. And there were 3 people who testified for the prosecution that they heard these allegations from my mother. 3 people testified that they heard the allegations from my mother. And then she perjured herself and said bad things about my in-laws, things that my in-laws would never say, would never do. You know, I mean, here's one way to prove that she's a narcissist. She wants to get all the focus off of her. So on September 16th, my children were under her care, and they were naked in a bedroom, and they touched privates together, and my daughter reported it to the therapist. And my mother was questioned, and she said, I was unaware. And then exactly 2 weeks and a day later, my husband has false allegations of sexual assault on him. You know,
let me add,
the story's different. Like, everybody had a different story, basically.
And everyone had a different story at one point. And I'm sorry. But also to add on to Emily's complaint about the 2 weeks and a day later and me having the false allegations on me, that was also the anniversary of her biological father's passing.
Yeah, so my mom used the date that my biological father passed away. And it was so weird because I have to go all the way back to November 5th of 2009 or 2008. I'm sorry, because that was literally 1 month after my dad died. I was turning 30. And we went to this restaurant called Hash House A Go-Go, and I had my best friend there with me. And my mom was sitting there crying about, oh, how she had such a good life and how she had a garden and they had a wonderful house and all this other stuff. And she was just crying. And my sister said, poor mama. Like, I just lost my dad. You divorced him for some strange reason. And you're trying to get the pity party put on you. And then when she was turning 60, oh my gosh, we went to Viva de Brazil. She was telling everybody, and I guess if I remember correctly, it was a party of like 10 or 15 people. She was telling all of them what a horrible child I was, how she didn't want children when she first got married. And I said, but you said I was a good kid. And she said, oh, you were horrible. You know, I mean, even when I was being abused as a kid, you know, I got into a fight with my ex-boyfriend at the time, and I kicked a hole in the wall, and I was terrified of the repercussions that I was going to face. So I went upstairs and I grabbed my dad's revolver and I put it on the table, and I was just staring at it, and I forgot to take it back up. And she saw it, and instead of talking to me and asking me where this was coming from, why I was feeling this way, instead of being a mother, she sent me away. She sent me to a mental institution for 5 months instead of talking to me and helping me through it. You know, she always does that. You know, I try to talk to her about why I am the way I am and why I feel the way I do. And she'll say, that never happened. No one will believe you. I don't want to talk about it, you know, stuff like that. So, you know, and this woman has my children. You know, my stepfather was physically abusive to me. One time we had gotten into an argument, and he dragged me upstairs and he threw me into my bedroom, and I was yelling obscenities at him, telling him that I hate him, probably dropping the F-bomb or something. And he picked me up by the neck and he held me against the wall. And I went and I told my stepdad. I went and I told my mom, and all she said was, you can't do that to her. She never called the authorities. She never did anything to protect me. Both of my biological parents married abusive people. My stepmother was emotionally abusive my whole life, from the time I was 3 years old until I was 16. My stepdad started being really physically abusive closer to my teen years. You know, he would grab me by the arms and shake me around violently. He would knuckle me on the head.
And he was
he was a what?
A raging alcoholic.
He was.
Wow.
And I don't.
And you know what? The man collects Nazi memorabilia. I mean, he tried to give Nazi memorabilia to my father-in-law when they first met. What does that say?
And when he found out that my were antique dealers, he kind of got a little excited and said, "Oh, do you have anything from the Nazi era? Do you have helmets or knives or daggers?" And my parents just gave him, "Here's a book. Look it up."
Yeah. And these are the people my children are with. You know, it's like, it's okay to give children to abusive people when you're very damn well aware that they were abusive to, you know, the respondent, and you give these children to the abusers, that person's abusers. You know, when we prove ourselves innocent and have a preponderance of evidence, you know.
And I just noticed someone on the feed asking, "Is your mom's name Kim?"
No, that was our caseworker's name.
And I have no problem putting that out there anymore.
Yeah.
I was afraid at one point, but considering she's got my kids, she's allowed abuse to happen to them, and actually furthered the abuse by putting these sexual abuse allegations on me that I was cleared of. I mean, I love the Las Vegas Metro Police Department. They did 2 forensic interviews, one before the sexual abuse allegations came out, which was September 3rd, and one after, which was October 28th. I passed both of them.
And don't forget the summary of findings that incidentally the court decided to throw out because supposedly the affidavit wasn't filled out correctly.
I was getting to that.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. One night while Emily was in Las Vegas, I got weak and ended up calling the sexual abuse hotline. And I knew that the only people they deal with is victims. And I got to talking to this young lady about what was going on in our case. And she said, you know what? I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to put you on the victims list. You are a victim, basically, of sexual abuse through emotional and mental abuse. I said, I appreciate that. And she said, I'm going to do one thing further. We're going to meet up at a Starbucks tomorrow. I'm going to have a report made and we're going to submit it. And I went with her to the courthouse to submit it, which was awesome. It helped me feel better. But then we found out during the trial that our caseworker tried to get a third forensic interview on the children. And
I already told them that, honey.
Oh, sorry. Must have been when I.
Okay.
Never mind me. But yeah, I mean, for Las Vegas Metro, and I've worked with them for 7 years, I know they pay extra money to have their abuse and neglect unit trained by Secret Service. And for them to turn around and say, look, we're not doing another forensic interview and we're not going to prosecute, that's huge. That means they saw the truth.
And the judge got pissed off that I trusted law enforcement. When they asked me if I believe my daughter, I said, I believe the forensic interviews.
One thing that made me really mad about your case was, hold on, I forgot what I was going to say. 1 second.
That's okay.
My brain has been really crazy lately.
Mine too. I know the feeling.
I remember when they were upset with you, Emily, for basically believing and siding with your husband, and it was almost like that's what made their decision, you know? And
yeah,
that he was found innocent, correct?
Yeah.
They were very upset with that. In fact, it's like, how dare you not believe us? We're the ones telling you all this.
Don't take that off.
Any evidence to support our claims, how dare you not believe us?
Right.
And they claimed that they had evidence, and they didn't. They had no evidence. The only evidence they showed was that picture of my daughter in a bathing suit. That was it.
And not to mention, someone tipped them off to our other interview from June 6th. And
July 6th, baby.
Yeah, and they used our interview and used certain points out of it out in context against to terminate her rights.
Yeah, I saw that.
And
yeah, they said they said it's obvious that she's going to stay with him no matter what. You're calling him honey and baby. Yeah. And I said, well, that's a 12-year relationship. It's a hard habit to break, you know? I mean,
not only that, but you know what? It's not fair that they try to or wanted you to like divorce.
Yeah, all I was getting was hearsay. They forced my daughter to tell me on April 9th. And then in that same on that same day, the counselor violated NRS statute 200.620 to 200.690 by recording me and not telling me. She didn't tell me until after the session with my daughter. And then my daughter had said, Mommy, I need to tell you something. Kim promised we could come home. And I brought that up to the court's attention. I described the video of sexual allegations on the part of my second child. You know, I told them everything, you know.
And didn't one of your kids learn how to
do fellatio?
I want to use the other word because I don't think that people will know what that is.
So my daughter, I have a video of my daughter talking about the big boys in the CPS's house. And she said, those big boys taught us that. And I said, who taught you that? and she gave me the two boys' names. And I said, what else did they teach you? And she showed us a behavior that she had learned how to give a blowjob. And I have that on video. And I showed that to the court, and the court did nothing about it.
Yeah, it actually just got, the judge looked interested in it, but at the very end, nothing.
This is even after the judge told both of our attorneys that she believes the mother because those things happen in foster homes all the time.
Oh yeah, she said that on April 15th in a private conversation with all the attorneys.
Who said that?
The judge.
And I did a little searching on the judge. I came to find out she's biased. She's an ex-CPS attorney and adoption attorney.
That's the other thing that you had said, that she's not, or what was an attorney and then got like promoted to be a judge or something.
She's an associate judge. She's not even an elected judge.
She wasn't elected in. She was hired by one of the other judges out here to fill that position because of the ASFA. They made a special court. I know it's Centex Children's Court, and all they take care of is CPS cases and adoption.
Yep, and she's Title IV, by the way. So if she would have ruled in our favor, she wouldn't have gotten the funding that she gets from Title IV. So she had to rule in the department's favor in order to get her money.
Yeah, she gets state funding and federal funding through Title 4D. So we already can tell that there's a bias here. There's a motive, everything.
And you know, I don't remember if I told you on July 6th, but on November 19th, the spousal privilege rule was violated. Section 4C, Roman numeral I in the state of Texas states that if proven, then you can call the spouse to the stand. Well, nothing had been proven, and the assistant DA violated that. And he entrapped me as well, saying, it looks like you have a choice to make. Will you choose your husband or your children? You know, and we reported all of this, every single thing, to the OCR, the Office of Consumer Relations, mostly because it's all recorded. And, you know, nothing was done. Not a thing. You know, and we have a letter. Unfortunately, I can't find that letter right now, but there was a letter that we received from like the manager or the supervisor or whatever, and she sided with the CPI. The CPI who kidnapped my children without a court order, denied my husband's right to know his allegations twice. You know, his right to face his accuser was violated by the caseworker, you know, and also, I mean, how are you going to wait a year to arrest somebody? How are you going to push an issue that somebody is not going to be prosecuted for? Where is the justice in that? And you taking my children away, how are you bringing justice to my children? When it happened in your state, your foster home, how are you bringing justice to my children?
And let's add on to that. Children have rights too. They have a right to their pursuit of happiness as well. And that doesn't stop at the courtroom door. That doesn't stop in the CPS cars. They wanted to come home. Emily's attorney turned around and said that they did not perform the Holly test, and asking the children where they want to be is the first part of that Holly test. He stated that. My attorney turned around and slammed his fist on his desk and said that they cannot and will not meet clear and convincing evidentiary laws. And they had no evidence at all, except for a picture of my eldest daughter in a very inappropriate bathing suit that was far too large for her.
Oh, and guess what, babe? You forgot to mention that upon reviewing the picture later on, when we looked at it in color, Gwendolyn, my child, I'm sorry, I don't know if there's a way to edit that. We're live, darn it. My child had a bruise on the left side, her left oblique, and it looked like a thumbprint, like somebody had grabbed her and like pushed into her side, and she had bruises on her legs.
Yeah.
And yet these people are getting.
Where stomach?
Yeah, it was like, can I show you?
Yeah.
It was on the left side right here, and it was like somebody dug their thumb into her and bruised her. And
did I ever tell you about my daughter with her fingerprint bruises?
I think you did.
And they didn't. They did nothing about it.
No. It's okay. If I had a lamp by me, I would have knocked it down already.
Yeah, and same thing with our case. They saw it. The bruise was there. It was obvious. They said nothing. And
on top of that, did we ever tell Cynthia about the recording of our daughter claiming physical abuse by the stepfather? Did we ever tell her about that?
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah, we have it on recording that my youngest child was claiming physical abuse at the hands of my stepfather, and we submitted that to the caseworker. And the whole time during this case, she's been saying, kids don't lie, kids don't lie. And then 2 days after we submitted that recording to her, she called us and said the kids said they lied, so we're dropping the investigation.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and even worse.
And didn't the whomever it happened to, one of your daughters, that you supposedly did stuff to, didn't her story change?
Yes, at least once.
Off my comforter.
There were certain things omitted from her story. Actually, when she was telling Mama, we already knew about what the allegations were, what she supposedly said from October 1st. But when April 9th came around, the story changed. There were certain things omitted. There was my younger daughter added. And I told Emily before this, I said, you need to get your attorney there. Well, she couldn't get him in time. So I said, okay, take the notebook. And that's what I read last time. And I told Emily, you need to watch her face. Whatever she does, you're the ex-behavior detection officer. You know what to look for.
Yeah,
and
my daughter never gave me eye contact. Not one time when she was making her statements. The only time she gave me eye contact was when she told us that Kim promised that she would come home.
And was one of them looking above the screen?
Yeah, every time she'd make a statement, she would look up. She'd make the statement and look up. She never maintained eye contact. And here I have, sessions, parent-only sessions with the counselor, and the counselor's telling me all these things that the kids are supposedly saying, and I didn't hear one damn thing.
Not at all.
From my kids.
And also another difference that Emily even noticed, and sorry to bring this up, but Emily noticed that during that April 9th visitation, the counselor, or I want to say what she really is, the intern, turned around and coached our daughter into saying these things. Oh, tell mommy where it happened. Tell daddy how many times it happened.
You mean mommy?
Yeah, sorry. You know what I meant. But
I do.
Tell mommy all these things, which to me, that completely takes the power away from my daughter and scripts it.
Yep. Yep.
And there was something else. Why did they bring up the gate around your house?
I'm not sure. I think it was a way to prove the perjury on the part of the CPI.
Yes.
And when she said that no, there was no fence, then that was an invitation for me to send pictures to my attorney, which my attorney submitted during the trial.
Yeah. Her attorney caught on to the fact that the perjury was going on.
No, your attorney caught up to it, I thought.
My attorney caught it too, but I didn't have the pictures. But your attorney, I have to give him some major kudos. He caught onto it, and he turned around and just went through each and every photo. Is this your house? What's this? Is
I
there?
remember.
And he made sure that it was clear that investigator was known that, or caught that, perjuring herself. He even specifically asked her, were there dogs? And she said no, and the dogs
No,
were not.
didn't she say I didn't see the dogs? I
Some,
think that's what she said. I think she said I didn't see the dogs.
yeah. But either way, any car that drove up to the house, the dogs would have been at the gate.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, missed them.
I also love the room you're in, Will.
Oh
That
yeah,
was shown on camera.
Mommy
Yeah.
made that.
It's my girls' room, our girls' room. Sorry, hon. But we did this expecting them to be coming home.
Why don't
And
you show her Liam's room too?
sure, Liam's room, Batman themed. We made Gotham City in there. I still got to do the other two walls, but kind of lost hope at one point.
Don't lose hope.
But
I know, I love it.
That's all chalkboard paint because when we had our rental, my son would color on the walls.
Yeah.
And, we would try to explain to him, you can't color on the walls. Well, we made the Gotham City out of chalkboard paint. And then we had we had his old race car bed and we spray painted it black so that he would have a Batmobile.
I love it. I love it so much.
yeah, and we even picked this house because it's got a huge backyard. We almost got
With the cows, right?
Yeah, the house is 1,500 square feet, but we're back. I'm sorry, but hopefully we don't get the reverb. But I'll flip the camera around so you see out back. Oh, yep. But we got 3/4 of it.
Yeah, we picked a house with a backyard so our children would have a space of their own. And then we made those bedrooms that way so that our kids would feel, that that canopy that I made, that was specifically for them to have a reading nook or, a coloring area. There's an activity table in there. There's chalkboard on their wall. There's, a marker board, and they had the nerve to ask me during the trial, well, when were these rooms done? It doesn't matter when they were done. What matters is we were planning on doing it with the kids, but you a-holes kidnapped our children before we had the
Ability to
before
jump
we
on.
had the opportunity to do it with them.
Yeah.
And I'm just, another thing that I want to that I want to express, and just like I did in the, previous interview, I have to apologize to people ahead of time because I don't want to sound ignorant or anything, but I do need you to hear me when I say that I believe that the judge is showing racial and sexual discrimination and bias, because this Laura Sanchez, who murdered her child, is a female, a Hispanic female, and my husband is a white male. And everybody who was involved in our case was female. The only people who were male were our attorneys and the one prosecutor. But everyone else was female, and we were always getting new people, like this therapist who calls herself a therapist when all she is just a glorified social worker. Our caseworker was female, the supervisor was female, the judge was female, the kids attorney was female, the CASA was female, everybody in our case was female. And, it's obvious that there was, conspiracy there. It's obvious that there was at the least, sexual discrimination, gender discrimination. It's obvious.
And
Because
I have two things I want to ask you about. you were given a hard time about moving, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other thing, and I want to go over each one. The other thing was, when your daughter fell or tripped, right,
over Dixie, our dog,
and hit something.
She hit the concrete pavers.
Because you were building a patio.
Well, that's the thing. We hadn't started building the patio until 30 days after the investigator was required to show up. I invited the investigator to come to our house twice, and I left the yard exactly the way the kids left it. And I did that so that she would see that we were telling her the truth. Well, she never showed up. So we built a deck so the kids would have a safer transition to the outside. And we never got our kids back.
Yeah, and we used those concrete pavers as a makeshift stoop until we could get the materials for the deck.
But weren't you like accused of doing something or pushing her? I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah. And I admitted it in the court because it was a mistake. What had happened was after our daughter tripped over the dog and hit her face on the concrete pavers, giving her a scrape and a fat lip. Later on that day, she decided to lynch the dog. And this is
what?
To hang the dog. She put the rope through the D-ring on the dog's collar and hoisted her up. And
that's right.
I walked out on that and immediately got into a panic, ran out, got her and my son back inside, and started getting on their case, not as a, how dare you do that? And it was, why would you do that? And trying to teach her, even though I was in a panic, I was trying to tell her, look, you could have killed the dog. You could have done so many things, and explain to her how wrong it was. And in my panic, after I got done with her, I was getting on my son because he was laughing in the dog's face.
Right.
And I said, you can't laugh at the dog. The dog could have died. You should have gotten me. And I waved my hands about. And even right now, I'm waving my hands about. And when I went and emphasized on one and brought my hands out to the sides, I accidentally smacked my daughter and exacerbated the fat lip. Well, they used that against me, saying that I willingly did it, that I knowingly did it, purposely did it. And I'm facing charges, now 2 charges of injury to a child over an accident. When I was trying to teach my daughter that it was so wrong to hang a dog that she could have killed the animal.
Well, and where it was our fault is that we had just recently watched a documentary about serial killers and stuff, and serial killers 9 times out of 10 start with animals. And knowing the kind of personality our daughter has, a very kind and gentle personality, I believe that he panicked because he knew how our daughter would take it, you know.
Yeah.
He knew that she would suffer from that. And I think that that's why he panicked. But also because, you know, for the dog, of course, but for our daughter too, you know. And after she got the scrape on her chin, she had said I had gotten home from work and she said, I don't want to go to school tomorrow. And we asked her why. And she said, because I look ugly. And we opted to keep her home, because as a parent, you have to understand, when a child gets hurt, yes, and you keep them home, yes, it raises a red flag. I get that. But what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to cover your own hide in the hopes that sending them to school won't get CPS called on you? Or are you supposed to protect your child's mental health, which if she were to have gotten bullied for her looks, it would have been lifelong. Self-esteem is lifelong. So we wanted to protect her mental health. And we thought that was being, you know, good parents.
And the reason why I freaked out so bad was because of that show. And learning that it starts with animals, I turned around and first thought in my head was, oh my God, are we raising a psychopath? And I immediately had to jump in and try to correct it.
Right.
I wasn't even trying to physically discipline her. I wanted to verbally teach her and get her, kind of get the gears moving in the head, saying, hey, look, yeah, this is wrong. I could have killed that animal. And I love this dog. And try to, redirect that behavior.
Right.
No intention of hurting her. And still to this day, I still cry about it. I still have nightmares about it.
Okay, baby.
Oh.
You should say hi to everybody.
One time, and I had no problem telling them this, but one time, that's a cute kitty.
I love her. She found my husband, and one of my really good friends that I actually met through all of this, she made a really good point today. When she was found, I took her in because she was a stray. She needed love. She was an orphan. She needed somebody to take care of her. And, that's why I took her in, because this poor little thing, she was so emaciated. She was so dehydrated. She was losing fur. She was losing, we took her to the vet and found that she had like a small case of ringworm and stuff. So she had an open wound on her back hind area, got her some medicine. She's looking so much better now. And she's just the most loving little kitty. I'll wrap her up because she's still not litter box trained. So I'll wrap her up in like a giant puppy pad. So I have a kitty burrito and she lets me sleep with her like a stuffed animal. She's like my comfort animal, So
Animals know.
She's just wonderful. I love her.
Now, what I was going to say is when I got my kids back, when I got my, thank you. When I got my kids back, both of them struggled with anger.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, us too. Yeah.
A lot of anger. And my daughter, they were both physically mean to me and the house. And my daughter at one point was yelling at me and like got in my face like that. And
oh, wow.
My reaction was this. And it smacked her in the mouth. Not like bad, there was no blood or anything, no fat lip. And I told our what are they called? No. We had wraparound. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but when you get your kids back, you can qualify for wraparound. And it is an intense therapy treatment where they're in your house every day, Monday through Friday, and there's like 6 different people. And they all offer something. Well, I told them because I had nothing to hide. Like, I didn't do it on purpose, and I wasn't mean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they told the social worker, and the social worker got mad at me. Like, I got in trouble.
What?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Accidents happen every day to little kids, between parents, and
there are YouTube videos that show the accidents. I mean, there was a man playing a skiing game on the Nintendo Wii one time. His little daughter got behind him, and right when he's doing the woo, to do his skiing thing, he accidentally wallops her with the controller and sends her flying. Accidents freaking happen. And these people, it's like when I was a kid, abuse was abuse by definition. But nowadays, it's opinion. I mean, God, you can't even take your kid to the store. Your kid asks for a lollipop. You say, no, honey, dinner's going to be ready as soon as we get home. Somebody's going to call CPS and say you're denying your child food.
Yeah, well, and not only that, but 2 things. Number 1, what are we supposed to do to discipline our kids? Because I really don't. Okay, you guys need to stop. My kids are fighting. I really don't think that physical discipline, and this is my opinion, is bad. It says in the Bible, like, don't
Spare the rod, spoil a child.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like beat your child, but some kids need to have a spanking.
Yep.
And some kids need to have, you know, discipline like that. Because timeouts and stuff like that don't work for my
Every
kids.
child.
Yeah. And
Even our kids at one point, I would put them in timeout. They would get out of it, and not even 5 minutes later, boom, right back to the same thing.
but you can't do it anymore. You can't discipline your kids. You get in trouble.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, what was the other thing I was gonna say?
I love your hair.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And it's so pretty.
Thank you. Oh, about the grocery store. What you just said. You know, one thing I believe is, like, one thing when I see a mom in line, because they put all the candy right there. When I see a mom say no to their child, I always tell, you know, the baby's like screaming because they're mad. I always say, like, good job, mom, stand your ground. I can't stand when people judge, like, they give you that
Or they
look.
butt their nose into it.
Yes.
Like, there was one time, Will, when we lived in Las Vegas, there was one time he was pulled up in front of a dumpster, emptying out the car, cleaning it out because there was some trash back there. Well, some dumb lady didn't see him and assumed that he just abandoned the kids and left them in the car. She called the cops on him. And he was standing there the entire time, dumping the trash into the dumpster. And, you know, I mean, it's like, butt out, people. You do your thing and I'll do me, okay?
I have a friend, it's a single dad, and we were just talking about he has full custody of his kids, 4 kids. And we were just talking because he was telling me that his ex-wife is trying to cause problems and say that he leaves his kids in the car. Well, he has young kids. The youngest is just turned 2, and then the next one is 4, and then so on up to 8. And one thing that he was explaining is if the 2 young ones fall asleep, he's got to carry 1 at a time, which means he leaves 1 in the car.
Yeah.
It's understandable.
And besides that, what works for one parent isn't always going to work for another, and vice versa. I mean, you know, you can take it to the bank when I say that I never once left my children in the car. Never once. I mean, I remember the first time I finally, after my first child was born, I had to go get gas. And it was like 113 degrees or something like that in Las Vegas. I asked the gas station attendant if I could leave my baby in the gas station by the window with her so that I could pump gas in my car. And she said, why do you need to do that? I said, because it's hot, and when you get gas, you have to turn the car off. And she said, okay. And she sat right by the window. I was able to see my baby. And then when I was done pumping the gas, I went in and I grabbed my baby and we left. Because I'm sorry, at 113 degrees, it gets up to like 120 some odd crazy astronomical temperature in your car. I would never, ever leave my children in the car. And, you know, I mean,
there's a couple times when same thing. I agree. I don't ever shut my car off with my kids in there when it's hot, even if I'm pumping gas. So one thing that I've done when I'm pumping gas is I leave the car on.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm actually happy you guys brought up the supermarket, because the one reason why I was so irritated about
By the way,
allegations.
I'm listening.
Okay. But when the sexual abuse allegations came up, I was extremely irritated because a couple of years prior, Emily and I took our kids to the grocery store, and this guy started following us, and he commented on our eldest daughter's hair and how pretty she was. And it really made us uncomfortable. And just about every aisle we went down in that grocery store, we seemed to bump into him. Like he was making it to where he could keep an eye on our dog and stalking us. So when I kind of dismissed it as, okay, it could be happenstance. But when we went to check out, there were at least 6 or 7 lines open.
No, I think there was way less than that, baby. It was later in the evening, so I think there was only like one other line, but there was nobody in that other line.
Yeah.
And let's not forget that I was pregnant with our second child. So when you explain that part, that's where it gets really weird.
Well, it was Glazier's, huh?
I know that. No, it was Glazier's.
Okay. Well, either way, the fact of the matter is he followed us into the checkout line, and right there, I turned around and I'm sitting here like, okay, now you're obviously following us. There's another line with nobody in it, and you choose ours.
And then he said, "What are you having?" Because I was so big and pregnant. He said, "What are you having?" And I said, "Another girl." And he said, "That's awesome. They're going to be able to play dress up together. And I bet you she's going to be just as beautiful as her big sister," and just all these creepy, weird things.
How old was he?
At least in his late 40s, early 50s. And it creeped me out. And I told Emily to go talk to the manager. We ended up having him 86th. But that's why it bothered me so much, is because I turned around and I told this guy, it's inappropriate for you to talk about my daughter that way and my wife. I said, you need to back up and give us our space. And he said, "Oh, I don't see why you're getting upset." I said, do you even hear yourself? I said, what grown man your age is that interested in how little girls play dress up or other things, or what a younger woman is having in months? I said, none of that was good by me. It gave me the chills.
Yeah, I agree.
And if it was anybody else and they were any closer, I would have just turned around and cold cocked them.
Well, I have to say, Will, I mean, I don't think you're that kind of person. I don't think you would have punched him. I think you would have done the right thing and talked to the authorities, because, I've seen you do that. I've never seen you go off on anybody. So I think, in retrospect, maybe you mean it in retrospect, but, you're not a bad person, and I don't think you would do that. I think you would have done what you were supposed to and gotten in contact with the right person.
Well, you did.
Yeah.
Do that.
I stood there. I protected Gwen while you went up and spoke to me. I did what any other man should do in that situation. That got you separate from him, and I was there to protect Gwen.
The fact of the matter is, we've learned a lot throughout this case, and, we've learned that the justice system is, you don't think about these things before it happens to you, and you don't think to research these things. You don't think to look into the laws regarding family court, none of that stuff.
Well,
you just don't think to do that. But I can't believe how unfair the justice system is. To let a murderer keep her rights, and you take the rights of two honest, loving parents. Mistakes happen. No parent is infallible. And I don't want any of the parents who are here listening to this today to feel any guilt or any sorrow, or think that anything they were trying to do to benefit their child was wrong. If it works for you and it works for your child, and you're not a horribly violent, terrible person, you're not a bad parent. And you got to have faith in that. And you know, you got to fight for those babies, because CPS sure as shit won't. The justice system won't. Like I said in the last interview, you got to know your rights, and you got to know who to contact. If any of you have a piece of paper and a pen, I suggest that you get it right now, because I'm going to tell you places to contact, just like I did in the last interview. I want you to contact the FCLU. They're the Family Civil Liberties Union. They have some incredible people, all of them. They're very knowledgeable. Some of them have gone through it and have won their cases. Others are still going through it. You contact them. They know their rights like the back of their hand. Also, the HSLDA, that's the Homeschooling Legal Defense Association. You can call them whether you're a homeschooling parent or not, and you can become a member, because what they do, if I read their thing correctly, what they do is if a CPS worker comes to your door, you have them on speed dial, or you call them right away, and they'll get on the phone with the caseworker and question them. What are you doing there? Do you have a warrant? Do you have a court order? You know, stuff like that. So contact them. Also, Fighter Cries. Fighter Cries is similar to the series we're on now, but they take stories as well. Let's see. And obviously, this series, you know, contact them, tell your story, get information on how to get in contact with the attorney. There are so many avenues that you have. There are so many. And then if you feel it necessary to call a state leader or a government official or whatever, if you feel it necessary, do your research first. And then if you feel comfortable contacting them, you report to them. If there is any place out there in the states that you're in that handle case-specific complaints, call them. The likelihood of them doing anything to help you is slim to nil, but they record all the conversations. So when you have an investigation that you want started on the department, all of your conversations are recorded, and they can pull from all those conversations.
Yeah, and like my tell me all the time, squeaky door gets the oil. And I have to thank Cynthia for being on this with us and giving us this opportunity to once again further our story. But you got to get it out. Awareness is huge. And me just watching this Save the Children movement, save our hands off our children, you know, that's starting to blow up. And it's because of outlets like this. We need to get our stories out. Otherwise, CPS is going to win.
And don't be scared either. Don't be scared, because you know the saying, hell hath no fury like a woman scorn. Scratch that. Hell hath no fury like a parent scorn. And if you F with my children, you can take my rights away on paper, but I am their God-given parent. And whatever you do, don't be scared. Just fight the good fight. There's going to come times where you're going to want to give up because it's taken forever, and you're going to feel like you're not heard. Make them hear you.
Yeah, it's hit
because
me.
your children need you. They don't need the system. They don't need this crap. Your children need you.
And no better parents than their God-given parents.
Yeah.
That's for a fact.
Anyways, sorry, we have a habit of going off on a tangent sometimes. But Miss Cynthia, did you have any other questions, or are you still there?
Oh, sorry, my sound was gone.
Oh, that's okay.
I hate all of this so much.
I just hate it because the two people, the CPI and the caseworker, they're both mothers. How can you take another mother's children and sleep at night? How can you do that?
Let's not call them by their title. Let's not call them by their title. I'm done calling them by their title. Erica Jackson and Kimberly Witt. They know where I live. They can come and talk to me personally like decent human beings. and tell me what they think about me instead of taking my children and giving them to your mom. And honestly, people who do that, I can't see how they sleep good at night. Taking other people's children for a paycheck, lying about
Which is illegal anyway. How can you take something that doesn't belong to you and give it to someone else?
Yeah. I hope they sleep well at night with that money they got off of my children.
You know, I don't understand how our moms, because my mom too, can take our kids and be okay with that.
Well, what's worse is, well, I probably shouldn't. I was going to mention certain issues that my mom has, but I don't know if that would be a violation, so I can't say anything that's going on with her. But
I'll take it on myself.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. There are some things you just really don't want to do. I know you're eager and stuff, but
yeah. I'm sorry. I'm hurt. I'm ready to.
Sure. Are these things like officially diagnosed?
Yes.
Yeah. I can tell you that she's 72 years old, and my
72
stepfather.
and raising kids.
Yep, and my stepfather is 75.
Both
and
guys.
they've both got very egregious medical problems.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but they do not need to be raising kids right now.
And on top of that, they got tax money from our children last year when they're officially retired. They're not earning taxable income. So on top of that, also violating federal tax. And yet this judge let our kids, let them have our kids.
Oh, and my mom admitted that she disobeyed a court order. She was in a custody battle between herself and my biological father. And I don't remember ever saying this, but she said I did. She said I didn't want to go there because my stepmother was abusive. And so she was trying to protect me and didn't force me to go visit my dad. And I guess my dad put a warrant out for her arrest because she went against a court order. And yet the judge issued, every court order that she issued was verbal, except for the 30-day no contact court order. And I honored all those court orders. And yet she said that part of the reason she was terminating our rights was because I disobeyed a court order. And I would never, ever do that. Okay. I mean, I know that this may sound weird to some, but I was a federal employee for 11 years. I would never disobey a public official. Are you kidding me? Ever.
And let's break it down. There were only three real court orders. First off, me having to take care of batterer's intervention class,
which you completed.
Emily, she was technically ordered to go to Las Vegas. And third, she was ordered to have 30 days no contact with me, all completed.
And to have parent-only sessions, which I did.
And Will, when was the last time you've seen your kids?
May 23rd, when they were removed.
No, the last time you saw them was June 11th, remember?
Yeah,
at McDonald's for lunch.
Yeah, June 11th was the last time I physically saw the kids.
This year or last year?
Last year.
What about you, Em?
December 29th and the 30th of December last year. I want to tell everybody one thing about my son that I don't remember if I got to express on the last interview. My son was 5 years old when I saw him last. He's still 5. He was showing signs of suicide under the care of my mother. My son has never turned down hugs and kisses or love from his mom, ever. And I went to give him a hug, and he stuck his hand out and he said, "No hugs, no kisses right now, Mommy. I'm a bad boy." And I said, you are not a bad boy. You're a very good boy. And he said, I'm dumb and I do dumb things. And he would hide behind the furniture. He ran up the stairs one time while I was there. And my stepdad said, should I go get him? And I said, yeah. And my mom said, just don't kick him down the stairs like you did last time.
Yeah.
And my best friend was there. She witnessed it.
Yeah. And by the way, to let you know in the comments, Miss Wanda Warner is our FCLU representative. She's been privy to our case since April. So she knows all of the stuff that's been going on since then. Since what, just before my arrest? Which my arrest was the same day that that private visitation with Emily and our eldest daughter happened. When I found out Emily was coming home with me.
You know, I'm just baffled. I am baffled how a judge can be okay with giving a murderer their children. How can she be okay with that when she lost the first 5 because of meth use? And then she had 3 more and she murdered one of those children. How can she be okay?
If you ask me,
that's backwards is that?
And rewarding. What? Yeah, that's rewarding drug abuse and the murder. It's
well,
like, okay.
It says to me that with us showing evidence of our children being sexually assaulted at a foster home is okay with the judge. A mother murdering her child is okay with the judge.
Yeah.
But parents who genuinely, you know, work their asses off to show that they're innocent. I mean, y'all, in the beginning of all this whole case, we offered evidence in the very beginning. From start to finish, all of our evidence was denied, and we were silenced the entire time. The only time we were ever able to speak was August 3rd, which incidentally was the last day of the case. And we had 5 hours and 45 minutes to show cause, testify, prove the wrongdoing, have our witnesses testify. You know, we had 5 hours and 45 minutes to show cause for a case that was over 1.5 years long.
Yeah. And my mom's right in the comments. The other thing that my daughter said when Emily was out there in Las Vegas, which tipped Emily off to some wrongdoing, was after her mom stated that, oh, I'm just joking about accidentally stairs. Our daughter Gwendolyn turned around to her mom and said, don't trust her, mommy, she's lying.
Well, her words verbatim were, when my mom said, I'm just joking, Emily, my daughter said, no, she's not, Mom, she's lying, you can't trust her. And my best friend was there to witness it.
And on top of that, she also lied under oath during the trial, saying that I'm a liar and a manipulator. And also, and the worst part is, she lied about her own daughter. She lied about Emily throughout her whole testimony. My attorney got her stepfather to admit that children lie all the time.
He said, your attorney said, he said something, but it was specific to our children. And that's when my dad said, oh yeah, they lie all the time.
Yeah. And we were proving coaching. We were proving perjury.
Collusion.
Collusion even. Proved that the allegations against me were false. I even testified that it was an accident. And even the guardian ad litem turned around and said, oh yeah, I do this as well.
Yeah, but she wasn't trying to buddy to you.
No, she was trying to mock me.
Well, no, she was trying to reel you in.
Yeah.
She was trying to reel you into her game.
Yeah. One thing they didn't like was during my testimony when they were asking me all the questions, I stayed straight-faced and told them everything as a matter of fact.
Yeah, that bothered them. He kept a straight face. He didn't show any emotion, and that bothered them. So, I mean, they're nothing but a bunch of bullies.
Yeah. Just like these several other stories I've seen where kids are found by their parents during visitations having bruises. And
that was us on May 31st and June 5th. That was us.
Yeah, we found bruises on Parker even. 4 big bruises on her lower back.
And our eldest daughter pointed them out. There was a big, large bruise above her butt crack. I did a body check on her, and I have that on video.
Yeah.
You know?
The foster home they were at was called Fostering Hope. It's down in Austin. That was even mentioned during the YouTube thing. So pretty much everything that was
confidential.
That was supposed to be confidential was aired on YouTube as well. Which
our children's names, full names, the address that they're at,
pictures,
all of it, pictures,
which poses another threat to our children. And it's like, okay, this judge touts that she wants to protect the children, do everything for them, treat the children like they're her own children, as a matter of fact, which is sick and disgusting to me. But even saying that puts it up on YouTube for their names, their address, photos to be disclosed. And by the way, the court records are not sealed. Any Joe Blow can go into that courthouse, get the court records from our case, know exactly where my kids are, and go kidnap them right now if they wanted to.
Who can?
Anybody. I found that out
because
I had a friend call the courthouse and ask him, hey, I'm part of this court case, but would I be able to come in and view the records? And they said, sure, you would have to sign this waiver and all this, and you can view anything you want. But yet when he called CPS and asked them the same questions, no, you would have to wait 6 months to get anything, and it would be a redacted version.
What does that mean?
They would take names out and stuff like that.
Any names, location, anything that could put the children in harm's way. But the court will leave it in there, raw. And I tell you, you're like, okay, there's a conflict of law there.
Right.
So. Yeah,
I feel like this interview, I feel like we've been B-wording the whole time.
I apologize for that.
Yeah.
What do you mean B-wording?
Complaining.
Well, complaining. I feel like we've been complaining the whole time. I mean, as true as everything we've gone through is, you know, I feel bad because I don't like to vent to people. I don't like to dump my problems on people.
That's
I don't
what
like to.
This is for.
I know.
You're not doing that. You're telling your story so other people who are going through this can be aware, or who haven't gone through it.
Yeah.
You know, because of this case, I was diagnosed with PTSD, severe anxiety, major depression. And I haven't been diagnosed with this yet, but I do suspect chronic trauma because I'll just be sitting in my living room doing nothing but watching TV, and all of a sudden I'll start having heart palpitations. I'll start hyperventilating. My hair's been falling out. It's gray right up here. You know, it's like in the beginning of this, the first month and a half or so, I lost so much weight because I couldn't eat. And every time I would eat, I would get really, really sick. And now I can't stop eating. It's like, ooh, we have money for ice cream. Ooh, I can get a cheeseburger. Ooh, junk food. It's like I'm always eating. And so my emotions are so just like this. Like one day I'm angry. The next day I'm bawling my eyes out and can't handle it. You know?
And the physical ramifications that these court cases have on parents is horrible. I mean, just the last week of our trial, I lost 20 pounds. I usually weigh 185. I'm now in the 160s and fighting to gain
So,
that.
hey, if you want a good weight loss regimen, I guess get really stressed out.
Yeah. Let
And-
someone kidnap your kids.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of weight too.
You know, I had really bad nightmares in the beginning of all of this. My first nightmare, I dreamt that I was paralyzed and I was sitting at my living room door on my knees, and the CPI was taking my kids and I couldn't move. The second nightmare I had, I dreamt that my children were actually kidnapped and my eldest was murdered. The third nightmare I had, I woke up, but the dream was still going and I couldn't move. I had sleep paralysis. My husband recorded me one night and let me hear the video afterwards, but apparently I woke up screaming and just panicking, and you know.
You know, I had nightmares too, but what was the worst for me was watching my kids
Grow up or
have the nightmares.
Oh yeah, and that's something I don't think we'll even be prepared for when they come home, because I know we know our eldest was quite affected by the abuse that they underwent in the foster home, and I'm pretty sure our youngest daughter was also quite affected. So
our son was too, though. Our son would tell us about how the one kid that was actually alligated in the sexual assault video from, you know, our youngest daughter, he would bring up how that same boy would beat him up and try to take the Batman his mommy gave him. You know, my girls told me how this one kid would grab him by the hair and swing him around. They were always calling him the B word, saying F you to them, stuff like that. And the first visitation that we had with them, my daughter was covered in bruises on her legs. And I asked her, what are those bruises from? And she said, oh, it's just wasps, mommy. It's just wasps. But I'm like, what? Like, you can tell the difference between a sting and physical abuse, you know. And my eldest daughter even told the visitation coordinator on May 31st, I think it was, that Daddy would never hurt us. And that was never brought up in the case. You know, anything that makes the department look bad will never be brought up in your case. You know, the biggest mistake we ever made was moving here.
I don't think it was a mistake, though.
All we wanted, though, was a better life for those children. They have always been number one, and they will always be number one. And we thought that moving to Texas was going to give them the opportunities that they needed for better education, you know, a better chance at making lifelong friends. Because, you know, when you live in a small town, if you make a friend as a kid, you've got a friend for life, you know. And they just didn't have that out there. And literally everything we've ever done was for them.
Yeah. And we wanted them to have a little bit of, you know, history to be around, because we know Waco has a lot of history.
There's a ton of culture here. There is a ton. Whereas, you know, Las Vegas is a fun place to visit, but there really isn't a ton of culture there. There isn't really a ton of history unless you want to see.
I don't think that's a good place for kids to be raised at all.
Well, it's like there's not really a lot of history unless you want to see the first slot machine that was invented, you know.
The 1 hour.
We wanted a better life for them. We wanted them to be able to plant roots. We wanted them to have a place of their own. That's why we bought, you know, we bought a house instead of opted for renting, because we wanted them to be able to do what they wanted to their room. We wanted them to have a space of their own, a backyard to play in, dogs to play with, We wanted them to have the childhood. I wanted them to have the childhood that I didn't have. I wanted them to know for a fact, without a doubt, that they were loved. No matter what they did, no matter what they said,
Yeah.
they were
And
loved.
I wanted to teach them some stuff that I learned when I was in Boy Scouts. I mean, we live 7 minutes away from the lake. I can hop in my car right now and even 5 minutes later be at a fishing spot, and I could teach them how to catch bluegill. I mean, I caught my personal best largemouth out there just a couple weeks back. And I wanted to teach them fishing. I wanted to teach them survival skills, a whole bunch of other things that would bring a whole bunch of character to these children.
I don't think you made the wrong choice at all. I understand what you're going through, and it sucks. But
Yes.
I live in California, and it's not a place to raise kids. Neither is Vegas. But what you did and where you're living, yes. And you know what? I was talking to a mom that I've interviewed, and we've been praying together, and I feel like God has chosen us specifically to go through this, unfortunately, to shut this system down.
Yeah. And
Well,
Wanda, our FCLU representative, said she wants me to be the president
chapter president.
for Texas.
What
And
does that stand for? You
FCLU, Family Civil Liberties Union. And I want to say I will accept it if it's still up for grabs.
Yeah, we want to help other families. Our goal is we want to start an advocacy program, and we want to have, I hate the word facility, so y'all please forgive me, but we want to have a facility for families where if removal is the only option, then they remove the entire family. And the children stay on one end, the parents stay on the other. And every day there's activities for them to do as families, mealtime, movie night, field trips, and then there's the individual counseling for parents, the parenting classes that they may need or whatever. But we also want to offer outlets for them to go to as well, like the FCLU, for example, HSLDA, counselors who can handle the trauma that these parents go through on a daily basis. This isn't trauma that happens and ends the day your children are taken. This is trauma that is lifelong. And in some parents' cases, such as myself, it gets worse every day. And parents need help, especially. Also, I want to tell the parents too that on May 6th of last year, we asked for help because we noticed that our daughter was becoming despondent and increasingly depressed. She was becoming increasingly violent to her brother and sister and the dogs, hence, the fact that she hung our dog. So we asked for help. And the same teacher that we asked for help from is the one who called CPS and got our children removed. And in the Texas Children's Commission, it says if a family asks for help, CPS is not to get involved except to assist the family. And that's because if a family asks for help, then they recognize that there is a problem and that they need the chance and the opportunity to fix it. And CPS 17 days later kidnapped our children after we asked for help. And it was a small town school, it's a school in our neighborhood, that did this to us.
Yeah, it's like in Vegas, you got classrooms with 30 or so kids. It's like 15, max 20, if anything. But there's a difference. And our eldest daughter was starting to really flourish. Climb the rope, which is something I've never even done. But she was able to climb the rope 11 times and ring the bell.
in the gym.
It blew my mind.
She had a friend, our next door neighbor has a daughter, and she would come over frequently and play with our kids and the dogs, and, she misses our kids and our kids miss her. I mean, the neighborhood has tons of children for our children to play with. It's a very family-oriented neighborhood. We love our neighborhood, and we love the people that we share the neighborhood with. They're absolutely wonderful people here, and they all know about our situation. They don't really know the details, but we've made some pretty close friends here, so I mean, in that regard, we're pretty lucky. But what sucks is when this first happened, we were new. We didn't know anybody, and
Will, your mom is 5 miles from the grandchildren and doesn't get to see them?
Yes. November 3rd.
Yeah.
There was a visitation my parents were a part of, and it got very awkward. That's where the father and father conversation happened. They took a picture of my eldest daughter playing with these, they look like stained glass blocks, but they were plastic. And object. My mom got a picture of our eldest daughter just looking real depressed, almost devastated.
Oh, and that's where my mom perjured herself. She said that your parents were recording her when your parents were never recording her. They were just taking pictures. And we explained to the caseworker that it's a live photo. I even texted her and said, if you hit the live, because there's this thing on the left-hand side of the screen for an iPhone, and if it says live and you push it for a little while, it'll make the screen, the picture, active. And it recorded my mom's voice saying mother and a mother, father and a father. She was saying that, a mother and a mother and a father can raise children better than a heterosexual family.
And my dad told him that that's not an appropriate conversation in front of children their age. And,
and my in-laws were barely heard. My mother-in-law reported the abuse that she saw at the hands of the caregivers, and the caregivers retaliated against my mother-in-law for following what I believe is civil duty. If you see abuse, you are required by law to say something, see something, say something. And that's what she did. And she told the caseworker that she knew it was going to cost her her visits. And it did. 10 days after my mother-in-law filed her report, sure enough, my mom sent me a text, saying that they were going to cancel the visits because my mother-in-law called and spoke with the caseworker.
Yeah, and
told them things.
And my mom even called the caseworker saying, hey, look, I need to see the grandchildren. This is going to be detrimental to their emotional health. And the caseworker said, well, you got to take it up with her. We even brought it up during court. And the court said, it's her house. And we were trying to fight tooth and nail to get my parents at least the ability to see the children, so the children had some kind of normality in their life. And it was denied at all angles.
Yeah, my mom isolates our children. Only the people in her family are allowed to see the children. Nobody that we know is allowed to see them. Oh,
and she even threatened the kids when I think this was last September or August. The kids were saying they wanted to come home and they didn't want to be there anymore. And her mom turned around and said, well, it's our house or the foster house, knowing that they were traumatized from the foster home.
Yep. And, we were told that my youngest daughter, she had a very rocky relationship with my mother, and that she says hurtful things to my mother and all this other stuff. And lo and behold, come to find out from the intern, also just a glorified social worker, that my mother and my second child were having therapy sessions together, but my eldest child and my youngest child were having individual therapy.
Yeah, because the intern said that she noticed our younger daughter having issues with being around Emily's mom. So she forcibly put them together and forced my daughter to get used to her mom. And I think that's abusive in itself. If a child does not want to be around a certain person, there's a reason. I mean, there's a child on Facebook going around right now. Her name's Sophie. She's 9 years old. Her mom's boyfriend sexually abused her to the point where she's traumatized, saying she doesn't want to go back to her mom's. And this new video came out just today where she is screaming, saying she doesn't want to go. She smacked her mom's hands away, all that stuff. She wants to stay with her biological dad. And the court gave her to her mom.
Oh, speaking of that, one other thing, parents, that I want you to look up is called Troxel versus Granville. I want you to look that up because that highlights all your parental rights and all the rights that the department does not have and what they cannot do to you as parents. It's Troxel versus Granville. Granville. Look that up.
Yeah, that'll help you a lot because that's a precedence case, and it was done in the U.S. Supreme Courts. Also, look up the Social Security Act, Chapter 10, and make sure you know your constitutional rights.
Yeah, there's an app for the constitutional rights. You can go on to the App Store and look up the Constitution, and you can download the app.
And I guarantee you they'll violate your 1st, 4th, 5th, 7th, and definitely the 14th.
And every case is different, by the way. What violations they violate with one family doesn't mean they're going to violate that right for yours. But make sure that you got to know your rights and don't be scared because these people are the devil. And it says in the Bible that we're not fighting man, but against principalities. And these people are the devil. They're predators. And they take your children for money. They did that for ours. Our children were their paycheck. Also, the CPS handbook. Google it. You can Google the CPS handbook.
Pay child support?
We were forced to pay. We were told to pay child support. I wasn't even the accused, and the judge forced me to pay child support. This is after I told her under oath that because of the case, we were struggling financially. We run the risk of losing our house. And she still told me that I had to pay $200 a month of my $800 a month paycheck.
And that I needed to produce my paycheck stubs, 10 of them, to the court to figure out how much I was supposed to pay. I was never given an amount. So me and my attorney put our heads together and we came up with $300 a month, which I was diligent on paying.
Yeah, and because of the pandemic and being quarantined and stuff, I was unable to pay child support. And then when they forced me to move back to Las Vegas, I had to leave my job. And so now I make no money. I have no job.
No, she had no job, no home, no car, nothing.
I ended up staying with 2 different people.
Yeah. And thinking about the pandemic, when they were deciding how they were going to do the trial, her mom decided to go to Missouri. And when they had a visitation, she was in Arkansas.
Yeah, my mom told me that she was going to be taking the kids to Missouri. And she went to Arkansas. And the reason I know that is because my kids told me during the FaceTime visitation that they were in Arkansas. And I didn't find out that they were in Missouri until a week later. So technically, I don't even know when she went to Missouri. But I know that she was fishing for witnesses. I know it because My aunt, who is of no relation to my parents at all, except that she's my biological aunt. She is my biological father's younger sister. My biological father has passed, but her ex-husband goes to the same Rotary Club as one of my cousins, and her ex-husband said to one of my cousins, "It's really sad what Will and Emmy are going through." And that cousin said, "Nobody in the family likes Will." And my aunt has a daughter, and she was talking to her dad, which is my aunt's ex-husband. It gets confusing. I'm sorry. It's really hard when you don't want to name names. But she was talking to her dad, which is my aunt's ex-husband, and my aunt's ex-husband told her about that. And I don't know which cousin it was. I know which one of my mom's sisters this cousin is. I know which one of my mom's sisters is his mom, but I don't know which cousin it is. And nobody in the family likes Will because of the things that my mother has, all the lies that she's conjured up, all of the things that she's telling them behind our back. I mean, we went to a family reunion in 2017, and the way they treated Will was absolutely horrible. Will and Liam, my son, I mentioned his name, but Will and my son were not able to go on any of the activities. My son was counted out with every single activity. They would say, "Oh, he's too small," or, Will can stay home with him. There were so many things. And my son, I found out, by the way, I should tell you guys that my daughters have their own room at my mom's house while my son sleeps on the floor in my stepdad's room. Yeah.
Do you think your stepdad would do anything?
I don't think he would be sexually abusive, but physically abusive, he absolutely is capable, because he did it to me. And they've been denying it this whole time. And we found out that the way the caseworker investigated my mom was the caseworker would call her and ask her, "Did this happen?" My mom would say, "No, that didn't happen." And the caseworker would say, "Okay, that's all I need," and hang up.
That's what happened in my case too. I didn't understand that. I was like,
they're brushing it under the rug. We've had several complaints. Even my parents complained to them, and it got swept under the rug like nothing ever happened. Not even brought up in court.
Yeah, and my best friend's husband, he wrote a letter in the very beginning of all of this and tried to make contact as a witness, a character witness. They never called him back. Nobody in this case has ever called any of our witnesses, not even the detective.
Yep.
He was arrested based on hearsay and notes from an intern.
I had 25 people, sorry, Will, show up to court, all these letters. I had a list of 25 people that would be willing to take my kids. Nope, nothing.
And that's not the worst part. The worst part about that letter that her best friend's husband sent to the court and the attorneys, it created retaliation on Emily. Her dad came after her best friend called him and said, "Hey, it's Mother's Day. Is Emily going to get anything from the kids that we need to expect?" And her mom turned around and said, "No, I'm not buying anything for her." And her friend said, "Can the kids at least make some drawings for Mama?" And her dad comes over with the drawings. Her best friend comes out, says hi, very hospitable.
She's always hospitable. She's one of the sweetest people.
Yeah. Her stepdad drops the drawings on the concrete and walks off. Not a word said.
And she said, "Thank you." And he just ignored her. By the way, Cynthia, I ask you to forgive me because I'm not trying to advertise anything, but my best friends are the founders of the Stop It Foundation, which is an anti-bullying foundation. And they started that foundation because my nephew was bullied in school, and my nephew chose to take his own life. And so they started that foundation to protect children. I don't know what they can do when you're involved in a CPS case, but they're incredibly knowledgeable. And if you need somebody to talk to, they're always there to help support children, especially, but parents as well. So yeah. I would go to the stopitfoundation.org if I were you, even if you just need someone to talk to.
Yeah, they even have the bad guy of the week or month on there. And they even had some senators on their website with a story on there.
I wouldn't mention that.
Well,
I think they can find, if they do go to the website, I think they can find that.
Too late now. But yeah, I've kind of gotten into the point where I want to fight.
Well, the only way to be heard is to be loud.
Yep.
So we'd just like to put out there hashtag save our children.
Yep.
And we'd also like to put out there defund CPS and foster wars. Yep. And again, fighter cries. We'd like to put that out there too.
And here soon I'm going to be putting up a YouTube video describing our stuff that we found.
Well, you know what? I think it's a good idea to just leave it with Cynthia because, you know, this is live too. I don't think we need to do a YouTube video because the thing is they can go onto YouTube and have your stuff deleted.
Yeah, true.
So
hopeful thinking.
Well, guys, I want you to call on Saturday again. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Because my boss, I already told him about you and he really wants to talk to you.
I may be at work. Hopefully we'll definitely be able to talk.
Please. So, I'm sorry again.
Yeah, all right.
Your story angers me.
Yeah, and we're all in this together.
Yeah.
I've noticed all the stories seem quite similar. Some different circumstances, but the end result is quite similar. Emily?
She there? You okay?
all right?
I can't tell you how much those babies mean to us.
Oh, I know.
Those babies are everything to us. I mean, it's like, take everything from me. Take my house, take my car, take my beloved cat, will forgive me, but take my husband, take everything from me. Just give me my kids. Your life isn't your life without your kids.
Yeah.
It's like every morning I wake up, I'm like, what the hell am I here for? What the hell am I doing?
I know.
Like, why even try?
No, don't.
We try because the kids matter.
Yeah. And you're not just helping yours now.
Yes. Our story is going to help others.
I hope so, because I don't want any other family to go through this. This is, everybody's case is different, and I know that everybody's pain is their own, and I know that, you know, you don't really truly understand what somebody is feeling because you're not in their mind. But, you know, I hurt for other people. I hurt for children. I hurt for my children. It's a lot to bear. It's not just my case that burdens me. It's everyone's. And I feel for these parents because I know, you know, there was a senator in Arizona who is you know, from what I have heard, he was looking at all the records and stuff and noticing that the numbers just don't add up. And he was questioning it because he was thinking, there can't be this many abusive parents and the numbers just don't add up.
Even our governor of Texas noticed that.
You know,
Not like
and
noticed. Yeah.
I mean, from one mom to all the other moms, I hurt for you. It's not just myself and my kids that I hurt for. I hurt for all of you because I know what it's like to love your children more than your own life. And I know what it's like to lose them. I know what it's like to have the greatest fear in your whole life, being losing your children, and then your greatest fear coming true because of monsters. I know what that's like.
And from one dad who's, oh, sorry.
You're okay, honey. Go ahead. It's probably best if people don't hear me whining.
You're not whining.
You're getting your feelings out, hon. But from one dad who's had false allegations put against him and proven him wrong and still lost his rights, you know, for all the guys out there who have had that happen, I'm with you too. But to all those people who actually do abuse their children, it's going to come out. You know, us good parents should be paying the price for the ones who actually do these heinous crimes. And wives have to suffer with their children being taken away. Good parents like Cynthia here, I can tell, shouldn't have their kids taken away and have to fight and pay and pretty much go under to get their lives back in order.
I lost everything. I lost my husband, my kids, my house, my health, my parents, my brother. I lost everything at once. And then while I was fighting for my life and fighting for my kids, I got to prove that I can live, survive my health issues, my mental issues because of what they did, and get a job, get in my own place. I had to do all of that by myself with everybody against me. So the one thing I'm so grateful for in your story is that you have each other, that you have your mom, Will. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, my mom's a strong woman. She's had her moments where she's broken down. Even knowing that we were moving out here, it wasn't easy for her, but she's happy with where we are. She's not happy with the situation.
She's always been supportive too. Like when we told her the reasons that we wanted to move, which was to provide a better life for our kids, she and my father-in-law were all for it. They were unhappy that we were leaving because they were going to miss the kids, but they understood why we were doing it.
And even when Emily's parents told him that they disagree, my parents turned around and said, look, it's their family, it's their choice. If birds need to leave the nest, let them.
You know, and my mom even asked my mother-in-law, did you see the house? And my mother-in-law said yes. And my mom said, was it clean? And my mother-in-law says, well, we can't all be Better Homes and Gardens, but yes, it was clean.
I still laugh about that comment.
Well, it's
but yeah,
true.
Good parents shouldn't suffer because of what the bad ones are getting away with.
Right.
That's where all their money is going. They're wasting all their funding on the good parents and the children who actually need them, you know, because I will tell you, I respect the mission that is CPS. It's the execution that is horrible. It's the camaraderie and the collusion and the violations that are so wrong. The mission is to protect children. And yes, there are children out there who desperately need them. So I don't necessarily want to have CPS abolished. I want them reformed. I want them to have specific protocols put into place. And I want them to have somebody to answer to. And that's not just, I don't want them to answer to their own people. I want them to answer to a higher power.
Yeah. Someone
who's above the head of the DFPS. I want them to answer to, like, the mayor, for example, or something, you know. But I also think that they should have behavioral detection training. And I think that they should be mandated to follow their own protocols, such as investigations. If they don't investigate, then that means they can fabricate whatever truth they want to.
Right.
And if you don't have the facts, then, you know, to each their own, I guess, you know, in their minds, you know. I mean, God, the investigator never even came to our house. For crying out loud, how can you call yourself an investigator?
Yeah.
You know, and a good investigator is like a good mother. A good mother will question everything and they will leave no stone unturned. And that's what a good investigator will do. Obviously, our investigator came out of a Cracker Jack box.
Yeah. And idea is, okay, we want a system of checks and measures on CPS. Why not put them under the wing of DHS? DHS doesn't fool around. And they want to end child trafficking, human trafficking. Okay, there we go. Department of Homeland Security. What better?
The Blue Campaign.
There you go. What better agency to put it under? I mean, I worked under them. I know all what DHS is about. They don't play around. I mean, they even have CBP under them. So.
Yeah, anyway, enough rambling, I guess, but I just really want to impress upon other people, other parents, that we're here for you. No matter what. I mean, our names are right up here on the interview. Message me. If you have a question, message my husband. We'll be glad to help you. We'll be glad to sit and listen. We know the pain and we're here for you.
We'll help any way we can.
I have a lot of love for you guys.
We appreciate it.
I'm praying for you.
Yeah.
All right. I will talk to you soon.
Will do.
I'm here if you
Well,
need me. You got my number.
Most definitely. And we'll let you know how everything goes.
Yeah, Saturday, please.
Okay.
Most definitely.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.